to share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, why isn't it moving forward? Here we go. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to go ahead and give the medical disclaimer. The information provided is for educational purposes. It's not intended for medical advice or a substitute for medical advice of a physician or qualified healthcare personnel. We do not aim to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any illness or disease. And you should always consult with your doctor or other healthcare professional for medical advice or information about diagnosis and treatment. Of course, this information in this presentation has not been evaluated by the FDA or any other medical body. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world. This is Dr. Dori Narbo, and I'm your host on today's call. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm a clinical researcher and an author of several books. So welcome to the call, everyone. Hello, Clayton.
Happy Tuesday. I'm
Hey.
excited to see what we're doing today.
Oh, yes. Well, so let me just introduce you really quickly for those that don't know you. I'm sure
Please
everybody on
brief.
this. Okay. So Clayton has over 25 years of experience in the health and wellness area industry, and he is an entrepreneur in the healthcare industry. Has developed several business models for analytical testing to improve the quality of care by identifying risk factors for diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and obesity. So his philosophy is simple: cure the cause. That was pretty brief.
I like that. That's the best
okay.
presentation of me. Quick.
Okay, quick and easy. Well, okay,
Not
so
easy. I'm sophisticated.
okay. So today, well, first of all, we're going to recap our talk from last week. We learned about epigenetics, that we learned that it's a study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. And these epigenetic changes affect gene expression to turn the genes on and off. However, these modifications do not change the DNA sequence, but instead how the cells read the genes. So today I thought we'd do something a little bit different. And we are going to have featured testimonials. This is Testimonial Tuesday. We're going to be doing this the first Tuesday of every month. And so today we're going to hear from Tommy about non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. We're going to hear from Mark about severe psoriasis. We're going to hear from Marcia and her son on ADHD. And we're going to also hear from Estelle on ME and chronic fatigue syndrome. So what do you think about that, Clayton?
I'm excited because I feel sorry for Tommy, because when you look at a lot of those issues, you know, Tommy had the condition that you can earn it, but he wasn't gifted the opportunity to earn it. To have a fatty liver without drinking copious amounts of alcohol. I mean, seriously, you talk about being dealt a bad hand. But let's see what we can do.
Okay, Tommy, you're up.
Thank you guys. Thank you, Dr. Dori. Hope everyone is doing great. I have to tell you guys a little story because for the last 15, 20 years, I was having a fatty liver and having some small issues with my body. And what happened is that I joined the Root family back in February 4th. And I was starting with a clean slate. I think it was end of February because it took a little time before we got it here to Norway. I had a test in a doctor office where we are testing for something called ALAT and ASAT. And both of them, I knew it was red numbers before.
Let me just stop you for a minute because I want them to see what the what they mean. So I made a slide here that shows, like, for the ALAT, which so we have you said the ASAT and the ALAT. So these are two tests. One is to see, you know, like liver, you know, when the liver is injured, this is released in the blood, and then also when the liver is damaged, the ALAT test is is when the liver is damaged. That's also releases these enzymes into the blood. So go ahead, continue.
Thank you. And what happened is I started with a clean slate as I said, in the end of February, beginning of March, and I had a test in the doctor office, and it showed that I had, of course, a wrong level when it comes to the ASAT and ALAT. So I continue with the clean slate. I double the doses for almost, I think, about 3 months. I go back in June and had a new test, and I think the test results show itself, if you ask me.
So now we're looking at your ASAT test, and you see here it was 48. It needs to, and it's already, you know, it was down to 29 after 3 months.
And the green zone is where you're perceived to be
The
acceptable,
safe,
correct?
yeah, exactly, within
Safe
this
zone.
the safe zone in the range. So that's really substantial.
So not only did you get into the safe zone, you dropped down to the bottom of it in a hurry.
Correct.
Within
How
3
did you
months.
feel?
I feel great, to be honest, because I have a clean slate to thank. And I also have to add that my wife is using it, and my 3 months old child is using it. And I have to say that my wife started the same time as me. So when my son was born, I think he was toxic free. I don't think he have any heavy metals or anything in him. And I think also that it shows that he's a healthy boy, if you ask me.
And you've seen some of the reports. You've had some of the data back on the young one, right? That he's a little more functional than most. You know, when being reviewed by his pediatrician.
Correct. When he had his first 6 weeks checkup with the doctor office and stuff like that, and the healthcare, the lady was saying that he was very strong. He was lifting his head. He likes to stand. He likes to follow what you're doing, and he's looking at you, and that's already after 6 weeks. And she was so amazed how focused he was already at that time that she was wondering what kind of amazing kid this was.
And there's so many key points to that your wife was using this during pregnancy. And is the little guy getting his own drops, or is mama taking her own, and then is he getting it through feeding?
Nope, he's getting 1 drop every single day.
Happy babies.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about you with your experience, because you said you doubled your dose. And you know, in our groups, we have, I mean, and all throughout Europe, we have people using 2 to 3 drops and getting some pretty significant changes, while others increase their dose and they start to see some really accelerated changes. So what was your experience like from the start up until June, and then with how you're doing now?
I go back to the original amount. I'm down to 10 twice a day. So I'm not taking the double doses anymore, but as I said, I feel great. I'm looking forward to the next time I'm going to the doctor office and giving some blood. I usually don't like to give blood, but this time I'm looking forward to see the next result and how everything is.
Isn't that the fun part of getting healthy though? You get to see the positive aspects of changes taking place. Like, oh, now I'm winning. And it changes the outlook on stuff.
It does. I also dropped 12 kilos. So I don't know if it's thanks to the wife or if it's thanks to clean slate.
Oh, absolutely. It's the wife. We know that for sure.
Most likely.
That's losing baby weight, which has never happened before, ever.
True. It's true what they said, that the guys is also gaining when the wife is gaining. So
I told you that.
Yes, you did. I listened to you also.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then I have this last slide up here for you, Tommy, about your ALAT. And so you can see it went from 118 down to 75, not quite yet into the green zone, but I'm hopeful that on the next test that you get, you'll be down again. It's
So
only
this
five.
is-
It's only 5 away. I mean, this is really significant. Look at the drop in 3 months.
But the ALOT test for what it measures, and this is such an important thing for people to understand, not just for liver function, but for every aspect of the body, is that we know the liver has the ability to regenerate, right?
Mhm.
As does the rest of our system. But you hear a lot of discussions about liver function and repairing or regenerating your liver. He's seeing it. I mean, that's what almost, well, it's probably a 30% reduction in enzymatic levels. So he's clinically watching initially the removal of what was causing the damage, but then also watching the repair process take place.
Mhm.
And it's always nice
It's
to
amazing.
see clinical data.
Astonishing.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tommy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just ask Tommy something?
Sure.
Obviously, it's a non-alcoholic related problem you had with your liver. Now, I don't touch booze or alcohol at all. I've not touched it for over 20 years. So how do you get a damaged liver to this extent without the alcohol? How was it damaged?
They were saying that I had so much infection in my body because I have a problem with my stomach and those kind of things. So they said that was one of the things that caused it, and of course with all the toxin and everything.
Wow. Okay. Just press the red, flew up a red flag for me. There I am trying to behave myself and keeping off the alcohol, and all of a sudden, through behaving yourself, you can cause just as much damage. So if that's the choice, where's the wine?
Yep. Well, and this is the important part, right? Of what was the cause? Toxicity.
Yep.
Clean up the mess, everything else. And you got to look at your liver and your kidneys just like muscles, right? They need some work. So if you try to live healthy all the time, your organs are going to get bored. You got to give them some work. So this is water, not vodka. Don't judge me.
And
Yeah,
Tommy, you also were on some proton pump inhibitors. Is that correct?
Yes, correct. I eat
Uh-huh.
that every day because of my stomach. I stopped smoking 12 years ago, and after that, my stomach gets very upset, and I have this inflammation in my where the food is going down.
In your esophagus.
So I have cut down. Also, I took 2 tablets in the morning and 1 in the evening. So I cut down on 1 tablet, and I cut down on the other one in the morning. So I only take 1 every day now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Terrific, Tommy.
Thank you.
All right.
Looking
Well,
forward to
thank you.
quit it all.
Thank you so much, Tommy, for your
Thank you.
testimonial. And then we can release you so you can go back to work.
Thank you very
Tommy
much.
laid down the gauntlet. Now, who's got better results than that?
I dare you. Come on. Thank you, guys. I need to run.
Thanks,
Thank you very much.
Tommy, all the best
Okay.
to you.
Take care.
Thank you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
So now we're going to introduce you to Mark, and he's going to talk about his testimonial regarding severe psoriasis.
Hey, look at that handsome beast. My God.
You are literally glowing here.
And I just a proper little drop of sunshine there. Yeah, it's look, it's very difficult sometimes for me to actually speak about that. I get quite emotional about it because it's just been quite dramatic, and it's almost like I have to pinch myself occasionally just to where I've been and where I've arrived. So yeah, I mean, shall I fire away now, Dory?
Fire away.
Okay. Right. 10, 12 years ago, I used to play football an awful lot at a very high level. And I used to wear these shin pads on my shins. And I used to get a bit of irritation, I think it's a sweat just building up with the skin. And I was finding myself scratching quite a lot, even after I'd finished the game and I'd washed and showered. And my shins just kept getting very, very inflamed. I thought nothing about it. I just simply related it to that and just used to use a moisturizer and keep myself clean. However, over a period of time, it was quite clear that it was more than this, and it just developed into what is now I know now as psoriasis. I just thought it was just skin irritation. I was wearing different clothes and checking my washing powders and all this sort of thing. But it became very, 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 very scaly within about 6 to 12 months, and I started to itch and scratch, and it started to move around my body onto my elbows and onto my hands, other parts around the back of my body. And obviously I was diagnosed by a dermatologist having psoriasis, told categorically there's absolutely no cure at all for it. It's an autoimmune. Well, they didn't actually say it was autoimmune at that time. They just simply said it's just incurable. You got to learn to live with it, keep it moisturized, look after it, use some more steroid creams on a regular basis.
Well, speaking about your creams, this is what Mark had to deal with on a daily basis.
Absolutely. Got it. I'm glad I kept this photograph. I really am glad I kept these photographs, because it's a real stark reminder, because I was literally, I got to the point where I'm a bit of an anti-pharma. I don't like doctors and I don't like pharmaceutical prescribed drugs, but I was having to take all this stuff. And I kept looking at different options and people making different suggestions, and I was trying literally all of them, because the psoriasis just exploded on my body and it was really getting quite embarrassing. I became quite embarrassed about the whole thing. And then I came over to live in Cyprus. So I wasn't able to wear shorts or everything because I was too stigmatized by it. And the sun and the sea actually irritated it even more over here. So I kept buying all this stuff. I took a trip to the Dead Sea in Israel. I lay in the sea for 2 weeks just to simply see if it would help. And it sort of did, but not for long. But yeah, I bought every product you can imagine known to man, and I was prescribed by dermatologists. I would say 50% of what you see there. The rest of it was down to my own abolition. But the way the health system works over here in Cyprus, I'm having to pay for all this stuff myself. And, I could have bought shares in a company, quite honestly, for what I've spent on this. But I was doing all of this every day, absolutely every day for the best part of, well, certainly 10 years I was using an amount of stuff, but certainly the last 2 or 3 years I've been using all of this that you see on the screen now. So that was how it all started. That's where it all really sort of became noticeable to me that I got psoriasis. Very grey, very scaly. If you scratch it, it got worse. If you didn't scratch it, it just sat there looking ugly. So you had to keep it moisturized to try and take that grayness down, a dullness about it all. So I kept doing that, but then you couldn't help but scratch it. It was unavoidable. And then it used to bleed. And then the next day I'd look at it and it was spread all even further. It became even worse. The last 12, 18 months ago, I went to bed, woke in the morning, found my legs had swollen quite dramatically, and ended up in hospital 24 hours later, being told that I'd either got DVTs or, oh crikey, what's something else. But anyway, they said there was a possibility of me having my leg amputated, or both my legs amputated.
Well, in this wet phase here, you had the cellulitis here.
Absolute cellulitis throughout. That's a section of my leg across my shin, but the whole leg was infected, and that's why they put me in a course of charcoal down the middle there, coal tar and charcoal. So that took the inflammation down. To be fair to the coal tar and the charcoal, it took the inflammation down. But when I was after that, you can see the dryness and the scaliness of the skin afterwards on the third photograph. That's how I was left. And it was, I have to tell you, something you can't explain is a sensation. It was my legs were on fire. They were just about to, they felt like they were going to explode. There was like an internal itch that you couldn't scratch, but it was just burning all the time, even at that third stage there.
Uh-huh.
So whilst I'd sort of got to the safe, then it just became dry and scaly, but it seemed to spread. It was going further up my legs. And then it became red blistered and a rash. And it was just ugly. It's just horrible.
So the red rash, this was actually after you had been in the hospital. This happened afterwards, right?
Yeah. I mean, from my point of view, don't get me wrong. I was thinking, compared to where I've been and the threat of losing my legs, I can live with this, I think. No, I can't. Yes, I can. No, I can't. And then
Well, you probably thought you were getting better, and then all of a sudden you're getting, like it's coming back again, right?
Absolutely. And then when it went from the rash, it became a blanket rash. It all turned red raw from literally my ankles up, as you can see on the third photograph. And that was literally from my ankles up to the top of my thighs going towards my groin.
And at this point, this is actually when you started with Clean Slate. Is that correct?
Absolutely. At that point, I jumped in with Clean Slate because I was introduced to it by a wonderful German man, and Thomas. And I said, okay, here we go, another bottle to add to the collection. I will be the museum for psoriasis. Let's just put it on the side there and give it a go. And literally, you can see my elbows from starting after 3 weeks, my elbows return from that to that on the latter picture now. And the arm and elbow clean. If you look closely at the skin, you can see, obviously, for what my body's been through, there's going to be a bit of pigmentation damage, and it will take time to recover. And that will happen. I mean, again, during this 3 weeks, if you saw all the blistering down my arm, down my forearm, I was told I'd have to have laser treatment to get rid of the discoloration in my skin, which again didn't enamor me particularly. So this is where I've gone from that grey, clumpy, horrible, scaly clump to now a smooth arm that I still look after. I still obviously I take my Clean Slate, and every day it seems to improve. So yeah, and that's my tummy. Oh, you've not put my Adonis picture on, Dory.
Oh, sorry.
Peter Andre Cypriot, I taught him everything he knows over here. So yeah, obviously I was overweight. I got to the point I was sympathy eating. I was just eating. I didn't give a shite. I just had enough now. I'd virtually given up the battle, just carrying on with my work, and that was it. But it started to blister on my stomach. And that to me became really quite worrying because that's pretty close to your organs. Okay. So I'm thinking, what the hell is actually going on here? I'd really lost direction. So I carried on at this time with methotrexate, which is obviously, as you know, is a form of chemotherapy. And I was on about 15 to 20 milligrams a week. And it seemed to help with the legs and get rid of the stubbornness of it all. But I didn't like the fact I was taking something that was smashing my liver all around the room. I was taking folic acid to balance it off, and oh dear. Real rocket science. Then it turned into this, literally after 3-4 weeks of taking Clean Slate. So my legs and my stomach seem to improve quite dramatically at the same time. And then the third one is, making strides towards my Adonis.
We took this picture yesterday.
Yeah, we did.
Look at how much your waist is leaned out. And it's crazy.
Yeah.
I have lost, during the Clean Slate journey, I think it's fair to say that I've probably lost about 15 kilos as an average. I went right down to 20 kilos, but then I started to celebrate in my glory and think, hey, woo, I'm going to have some cake. And I just, you know what? I can be naughty because I'm taking my Clean Slate. I'm taking my Clean Slate and it's balancing off. I'm going from, as I've said to Dory and I've said to a lot of people, I live my life on percentages, 85% good, 15% bad, without the alcohol. So, I've seen that tremendous improvement. And it is not just about, I think I've said before on previous chats we've had, look, the skin and the damage to the skin is awful, but it's the psychological scars. It is absolutely, there is a point. I can understand why people jump off a bridge or do all this sort of stuff. I can understand it. I'm too much of a coward to do that sort of stuff. I'm just, I'm not going to do that. I'm too selfish about my grandchildren. But, so it is the psychological scars, the physical scars, and to be able to see myself like this today, and it's the photos are one thing that Dory's been kind enough to share with you all, but I'm here showing you face up that it's how I am today, and it's just getting better and better. So and there's my legs.
These are amazing.
Run, Forrest, run. But look, I don't know. Is it psoriasis? Is it leprosy? Is it whatever it is? But, again, being an ex-professional footballer, what I did, I wanted to see the shape and definition coming back in my legs. So if you go to the second photograph, you can see I'm pulling my quads a little bit, but you can see my shin muscle.
Oh, yeah, right here.
My quad muscles,
here.
So I'd lost all of that. That had all gone in a little bit of fat, but obviously it was hidden by the scars. So it was great to be able to see those and, see some coloring taking place. But as I say, I've gone from That was after 8 weeks, as it says on there. My script is right in front of you, Mark, if you look. And then after 4 months now, where I am today, that's how my legs are today. And I do normally moisturize, but I don't have to. Because I drink 3 to 4 liters of water a day, I think my body is now functioning better through a cleaner liver, and it's actually being distributed to the right places, so my body has got sufficient hydration. But I just have to drink 3 to 4 liters of water a day. It's just the way I'm built. That's what I do. So, yeah. So, yeah. Crazy, huh? Who are you going to call? Oh, Sebastian. But, yeah, that is just, that in itself is, you could just use that slide, and that would be, to me, testimony to everything. But again, as I mentioned earlier in the conversation, I'd been fortunate, if you like, because if I look at how much I'd spent per year, per week, per month, and added it all up, I would say I'm certainly hovering around the 30,000 that I was spending latterly. You know, what appeared to be small amounts per month over that 10, 12-year period was exorbitant. And then on top of which I was seeing specialists or so-called specialist dermatologists that don't still relate to skin linked to the liver, and they won't have anything to do with it. But anyway, and then I had 10 days in hospital where they told me I was going to lose my legs. And so that was a $7,500 bill. And then all of a sudden I got a little bottle of 69, Swass on Nerf. And here I am. And I can't thank the team, can't thank the products, can't thank anybody enough. I just thank God more than anything, is because I'm very, very lucky to have. But I think I've earned this as well, because I do listen to my body, and I knew there was something. And I say my good friend Thomas, who introduced me to the concept, could see I was passionate about finding a way out of this. And so he honed me along. I threw a load of cod oil down my system for 3 to 6 months. And then I bounced into root and detoxed very, very quickly. Very, very quickly. Without too overly graphic, you know, I spent a lot of time in a room and down the corridor. And
it's interesting that you were taking it just, you know, 10 drops twice a day, and you were actually putting it in water, which makes so much sense to me. Actually, after reading this, right, paper, Clayton, because actually it's actually talking about, like, when you put it in water, instead of taking, because it actually, okay, so I was thinking, because it goes through the gastrointestinal system, right? Actually, it's better to put it in the water. Like, remember I told you, Mark, I take it neat, right? I just pop it in my mouth, right? But the water, it's going to go through a different route. It's really not going to go through that mucosal, you know, the mucosal lining.
I think what it was, I'd heard Clayton say, you must hydrate, you must keep yourself hydrated, you must take water. And I thought, well, that part of the journey is not a problem, because I'm water. But so I just put 10 drops in the morning in a glass of water, wallop, and same in the afternoon or the evening, did exactly the same. And I did that for literally 3 weeks. And then I started to watch people saying, you know what, that 10 drops scenario, hey, not a problem. You can't seriously actually get to a point of overdosing on this stuff. And I must admit, I enjoy what it's doing to me. So it's on my office desk, literally by the side of me here. And I take it probably 3-4 times a day. Neat under the tongue.
So Mark, I got a question for you.
Go on, then.
What industry do you work in?
I'm not telling you. I work in the medical.
You've been in healthcare.
Absolutely. But for 6 years, I involved in a business that actually repairs, or actually cures. It cures non-healing chronic wounds, including diabetic ulcerations of the leg. And I'm proud of my business. Joking apart, we take people from black gangrene legs to saving the leg. So that is magnanimous in itself. But I found it ironic. I was lying in hospital 18 months ago being told, you're the ambassador of this company, a director of the company. You are the foot soldier of this company. You ain't going to have any feet to be a soldier with, because we're potentially going to take your legs off. And I was like, how can that be? I've not got diabetic ulcers. but I've got psoriasis and I'm going to lose my legs through that. And I used to treat myself a little bit with my machine that I use for my patients. And it seems to help a little bit, but it certainly couldn't break down that volume of problem, because it was all over my body. It wasn't just my legs and my arms, it was everywhere. So no, and I'm now a proud ambassador of my equipment. And again, but I do see, and I have had this conversation with Dory, I see there is a definite synergy here, because I can cure the ulceration, but I cannot with my machine. I cannot ask somebody to change their lifestyle and reverse the diabetes or put it to at least remission. So I think there's a happy marriage taking place there somewhere down the corridor. And there certainly would be from my point of view. If I greeted with a patient, my clinic's in Switzerland, my main clinic's in Switzerland, and I'm having a bit of dialogue with my my specialist over there. And I think before long he'll be appearing on one of our Tuesday night chats, because I don't think, when I sent him photographs, I don't think he actually believed what I was telling him. So, you know, hey, the proof is in the pudding, and you can call me pudding all day long if you like. But
right. So there's a question that just popped up. Was with your decade, we can say decade of experience, much like Tommy was answering the question. Did your clinicians ever give you an idea of what the cause was, what the etiology?
No, absolutely. If I have been back to my dermatologist here in Paphos in Cyprus, and I've said to them, look, what can you tell me about the relationship between the liver and the psoriasis situation? And, you know, apart from the fact it's broken English and such like, this is not this, Mark. It is not this. It is nothing to do with your liver. Your liver is good. I see your blood results every month. They're good. They're fine. They cannot see the obvious medical synergy between the two. And it's very frustrating. But I think that's probably, I've got to blame Cyprus a little bit, because they do tend to be a little bit, you know.
Yep.
And this Englishman, he come here, he tell me how to suck eggs.
But I think the important part is like Dory had pulled in some of her research, and it's the important part to understand about every part of your body, right? Is when we look at the sequestration of these toxins and chemicals and pollutants, they might not affect enzymes, but they're going to affect other parts of it. And like Dory, when she brought up with me of identifying that psoriasis, eczema, acne are liver toxicity issues with heavy metals and specific viruses in the you can say the correct or the worst case scenario of those combining together, that's what's expressing. And you try to go through some of the published literature, you know, that you see from dermatologists, and none of them know it. I have with my medical consulting company, I have a couple dermatologists that I work really closely with. And this is a subject that they are completely ignorant to. And
I think, like a lot of the medical professions, become very sales orientated. And if you for 1 minute appear to be hitting their bottom line on GP gross profits, woo, they're going to back you away all day long. You know, and that, I understand it. I'm a businessman myself, but at the same time, it is, when I've got such a loud voice over my situation, I feel it's not just a case of, it means they can treat 1,000 patients now rather than 4 or 5, and they can be in and out of their clinic very, very quickly. And they can take the wonderful feeling of being able to say to people, the testimony saying, I've helped all these people, rather than just a small window.
Would you agree in the philosophy, though, that this is wellness is actually a choice, right? You don't go to the hospital, you don't go to the doctor to get well.
No.
You have to, and as you did, I mean, with your journey, and you can see with what you were spending and trying to find a solution, but you can't go to, we can say, the establishment to find a solution, because that's not where you're going to find it.
It's a crutch. It's a crutch to lean on. It's somebody to almost like have one-to-one counseling of saying, this is how I feel, this is how it is, this is what it is. They say, blah, 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 blah. But it's gone, it's finished. There is no support mechanism there and after. You just believe that their potions are going to bring you to, and they do give you a little bit of glory for a week or 10 days, but it's back to square one. And the thing with psoriasis, and like any other skin disease, as I've researched myself, psoriasis is very clever. it works out what you're trying to do, and it goes round it. It will start off my elbow, then it'll go down to my wrist, and onto my hands, and wherever you think you're treating, it moves. It says, well, if I can't affect you there, if you think you can treat me on your legs, I'll go somewhere else.
Almost like it's viral.
Yeah, it's moving around your body. And I never had psoriasis in my hair at all, my head at all. But as I was treating my body pre clean slate, I was having to use ointments on my hair and everything as well. So, but it is very intelligent. It's very switched on. You can tell exactly what you're doing.
Did you do anything topically, or was it all oral?
Well, no, methotrexate was the only oral I did. Everything else was just topically. I was putting creams and ointments and all the rest of it all over my place. I mean, I was like,
yeah, those are all.
Oh, sorry, the clean slate. I don't know. I took, when I first shared my results with you or everybody else on Facebook, you said to me, try it on the skin. In actual fact, to be honest with you, Clayton, from where I was then, it started to sort of dry the skin very quickly and started to itch a bit more. So I said, well, I'm not having that. So I'm just purely oral with this.
Okay.
But I don't apply it to my skin at all. Not saying if I didn't mix it with something else, a moisturizer, something, it'd probably have a great effect. But I stick it to oral.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Mark, for your testimonial. It was
no, it's an absolute pleasure. I love sharing it. I'm very, very proud of it. Very, very proud of it.
The interesting thing for you, I mean, like you only took 10 drops twice a day, and within 3 weeks you started seeing results, and this is 4 months now. Yeah. Well, thank you again. Absolutely
no problem at all, and I hope other people share the same results. I know there's 1 or 2 that I've seen on Facebook that have, but if I've said to everybody, if you need anything, just give me a call.
Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to hear from Marcia. Marcia, where are you, Marcia?
Yeah.
Did you unmute yourself? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there you are. Hello.
No.
Welcome to the call. So Marcia's going to talk about ADHD.
Oh no, my phone. I need to get my charger. Hold on.
Oh, so she can't focus. I see how this goes. Run away. How original.
It was planned.
It was planned. Okay.
Yeah, totally planned. Right. Okay.
So I just, first of all, pulled some of these studies here to show the connection between ADHD and the heavy metal connection.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. The floor is yours.
Okay. So Django had his MMR when he was 1, and I think it affected him. At the time, I knew he stopped eating most things apart from penne pasta and fish cakes for about 4 years. It was a bit of a nightmare. And then 2 years ago, he was diagnosed with ADHD. Well, we realized he had ADHD. The diagnosis has only happened recently, actually. And through all the reading that I've been doing, I started reading that there's a lot of metals in autistic children, and my brother and my nephew are both autistic. And I know that autism and ADHD is supposed to be related. So I thought, and around the same time I had a chat with Sandy, and Sandy mentioned this clean slate stuff and how it detoxes the body of heavy metals. So I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And I bought some. I think I had ADHD as well, or have ADHD. I had been thinking that for the last couple of years. And then as soon as I started taking the clean slate drops, I did start feeling much less chaotic. So maybe it was just heavy metal poisoning, or maybe ADHD is heavy metal poisoning. Yeah, and a month later, I started taking Zero in as well, and yeah, I feel amazing, to be honest. It was actually in September, in August, when I went away our family went away to Portugal for a week. I've got 3 kids, and my partner mentioned at the end of the week to me that I didn't lose my temper for the whole week, and I hadn't even noticed. I just had a really great holiday. And it was only when he said it that I realised that normally, at least every other day, I would totally lose my shit with the kids, at least once. And yeah, it was when he pointed out, wow, I haven't lost my shit for ages. I thought, wow, this stuff's really good. It's doing something. So then I decided to get some for Django. And yeah, Django can tell you what he likes about it.
Okay, well, I think this clean slate stuff has been really helping me, like making my head feel clearer and less chaotic, as my mother said. And I've been concentrating much better in lessons, as another example. And I've been finding it easier to I sleep better, for example, and I find it easier to wake up in the morning because I have to get up very early because I end up having much more sleep because my head is much less chaotic.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Django, how old are you now?
I'm 12.
All right. So have you made your routine on your own that you know when you like using clean slate? And are you using Zero In yet too, or no?
No, not yet. I might start taking it though. What do you think, Mum?
Yeah.
I mean, we do have kids that are on it as young as 8. Isn't that right, Clayton?
Yeah, we have 8-year-olds that, and especially in this environment where there's a lot of homeschooling, they absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And
my thing is,
I'll give you some insight. I was allegedly, because I don't ever remember this, but I was diagnosed as ADD as a kid as well. But I honestly, from my perspective, I was never medicated, but my mom did a really good job of keeping me busy, right? If I competed in multiple sports, my schoolwork was great because I was usually worn out, right? But it's understanding that it's more of a gift when you know how to use it, and it comes in time. Usually we don't it's more of being high functioning than it is you can say a disorder, but being able to now hyper focus, clean up some of the blockages and allow you to become more of what you're capable of becoming. It's kind of cool. So the sleep part is one interesting aspect. How after what period of time when you started using clean slate did you notice that you were starting to sleep better? And do you recall your dreams now?
I don't really recall my dreams, but it wasn't too maybe a week or something after I started taking it. Probably, I can't really remember that well, but probably that I started to sleep better because I was thinking about less, basically, you could say, because usually my mind's really cluttered and thinking about 10 things every second, but then it just started to clear out a bit, you could say. Yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
yeah, I want to get the whole family on it now.
The one important point for this to take from what Marsha was saying initially is what you heard is for the first time in history that a man asked her that she hadn't lost her mind and she didn't lose her mind on him.
That's great.
So that is awesome. Thank you both. I mean, this is the fun part because most of us here are adults, right?
Yeah.
But Django is so far ahead of the curve, that our focus needs to be on the youngins, because we've got to clean them up because that's our future, right? If we don't take care of them, we're in trouble because at some point they're going to be running stuff.
What really excites me is that Django, I think, has tried so hard for years to be, to act normal, to be normal. And he's tried so hard at school and he's found it difficult to concentrate. Now that we've got all that under control, I think he's really going to excel because he's so good at trying. Do you know what I mean? He's got...
It's going to be interesting to see how he is, like, say, for example, in three months' time, if he starts, like, with, for example, the 0 in.
Yeah.
Django, can I give you some life advice?
Okay.
And it's really, really brief, but I want you to carry this with you for the rest of your life.
Okay.
Don't ever be normal.
Yeah.
Don't be normal, man. Just be you. I mean, look at you. You think I'm normal?
You're special in a good way.
Be you. The reason your brain's going crazy is there's a lot of stuff you got to do, and being able to organize it and hyper focus once. And I think that's one of the fun parts of what Clean Slate does is it's removing some of the bad stuff. Everything else starts to come in line. Yeah. And like, the one thing I tell my kids is don't be normal. The good ones aren't made to be normal. So keep going.
What do you want to do when you leave school?
Thank you, Marcia and Django, for your testimonials.
Cheers.
So now we're going to move over to Estelle, and she's going to tell us about her experience with chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yes, thank you. I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome in 2013, and it was, interestingly, it was very shortly after I'd had some of my teeth removed, and those teeth I suspect, had some amalgam fillings in them. And I actually asked this question before starting with Clean Slate, and I think it was Clayton who identified that was probably the cause of my chronic fatigue syndrome starting. Prior to that, I had already had adrenal fatigue for, probably 15 years or so. But it really got very serious in 2013 when I actually got a formal diagnosis of chronic fatigue syndrome. And it was so bad that I had to sell my business. I couldn't carry on with the business anymore. I was really virtually virtually bedridden. I would do an hour of gardening and then have to be in bed for 6 hours, and then couldn't do anything really much for the next week or so. So it was really quite bad. And when I had to sell my business, that was like a wake-up call. I thought there's something wrong here. So I went to the doctor, just got the usual sort of brush-offs from them. There's nothing we can do for you. All your blood tests are normal. There's nothing we can do until you have blood tests that show something. And of course, the blood tests were always normal. And I have had hundreds of blood tests, and it's every month or every 2 months, it's a different thing. It might be this, it might be that, and so on and so on. It carried on. But basically, things were just getting worse and worse until eventually I decided that I wasn't getting any help from the medical profession. I'd have to take control of this myself and kind of start healing myself. So I set about changing my diet and doing the usual kind of thing, taking lots of supplements, and I take an awful lot of supplements. But I got to the point where I just had that last 10 or 15% of wellness that I couldn't achieve. I'd got so far and I got myself back into full-time work, but I still had that last bit of struggle. I still wasn't 100% well. And I actually had to ask them at work, I had to negotiate a change of working hours because I wasn't coping very well with the early mornings and, long hours and not taking enough breaks and so on. So I negotiated a later start in the morning. But, and then Sandy said to me, he'd been on Clean Slate for, I think, a couple or 3 months, and he started talking to me about it and telling me about the amazing results he was having. And one thing that really attracted me to it was that he said it was decalcifying his pineal gland. And that, as you know, is, that kind of sharpens the intuition, and it gives you more clearer focus and all that kind of thing. So I started on Clean Slate, and almost immediately I noticed more energy. But the biggest, I can actually relate to everything that all of the previous three speakers have said, almost everything that they've said are things that I've had, apart from the psoriasis. I haven't had psoriasis, but the liver issues, skin problems. My skin issues really have come from food sensitivities, and I've only recently discovered that actually the reason those food sensitivities present themselves in my skin is because of liver issues. So I've started to think, what can I do about dealing with my liver issues? But I've noticed that since taking Clean Slate, a lot of my food sensitivities have started to disappear. So that is a major thing for me, because food sensitivities really control my life. It limits where I can go, what I can eat, who I can be with, how much I can travel. You know, it's just a really big issue in my life, food sensitivities. So I've noticed that, for example, histamine intolerance has gone. I don't have, my doctor said to me, you can never eat strawberries again in your life, because you have a, you know, because at one point I was getting a histamine kind of reaction to strawberries and various other foods, fish and various things, but I don't get any of that anymore now. I was actually eating strawberries earlier today, and normally my lips would have been swollen and I would have had all of the itching and everything else, but I've got none of that now. The other thing that Marsha was saying, and I think I'd got to this point where I was starting to think, and friends of mine actually said to me, I think you've got ADHD. And I was saying, no, I've never had ADHD. That's not a thing for me. What it feels like is exactly how Marsha was saying, and Django was saying, it feels like your thoughts are just really chaotic. And I really struggle to focus and concentrate, especially at work. It would take me a whole day to finish my work, and to not even finish my work, and then I'd have to stay late. I'd have to stay an hour or two late in the evening just to finish that day's work. And now, like today, I finished all my work by 4:30, and I was ready. I started getting ready for this meeting and started thinking, you know, getting my notes ready and everything, because all my work was done. But it used to feel like, I used to describe it like ants, having ants in my head, ants going all over the place. It's like signals firing off in all different directions. And all of that is now completely gone. So I have a much more calm and focused way of dealing with things. So I'm not getting so anxious and stressed and panicky about things. People used to say to me, you're so highly strung. And I'd say, well, that's because of the way my brain works, you know. And now it's like the ants have gone. It's the best way I can describe it, is the ants nest in my head with ants going all over the place. They've all gone. Another thing that was mentioned, I think in Dory's slide, was about eyesight. Now, I know I'm still wearing my glasses today, but I got to the stage where I was like this on the screen. It was like my lenses were fogged up the whole time. There was no clear, no matter how much I cleaned the lenses, I still couldn't see clearly, and it was getting worse. And I started to get these little black spots in front of my eyes. And so when I researched that, I went onto YouTube and watched a lot of videos, and everyone was saying this is because of debris in the eyes and toxic buildup. And I was thinking, well, how do you clean that up? So I started doing eye exercises, and I've been doing eye exercises for about a year to try and get the muscles to work better, to improve the blood flow. But it only got me so far. There was a slight improvement, and my optician noticed an improvement, but it wasn't enough for me to say, right, I don't need my reading glasses now. I can see clear. I don't have that. It was the kind of like almost like a film across my eyes. And earlier today, I was thinking, actually, I noticed that that's completely gone. I'm actually looking at the screen quite normally, and I'm not trying to clean my glasses every few minutes, because it feels like there's some kind of dirt or film on the lenses. So that's all gone. I've got a list here of probably about 20 or 30 different things improvements that I've noticed. But another thing I've noticed, this is really interesting, Clayton, you might have some comments on this. On my sort of the top of my leg, on my hip, I've noticed this sort of round, like a patch of rough skin coming up, and I've noticed it there. And when I took a close look at it, I could notice little spots, red spots all the way around. It's like a round mark with little red spots all the way around. And then I remembered that when in the 60s, when I had my vaccinations, and I can't tell you exactly if it was polio or smallpox or what it was, they used to do, at that period in time, they did them on the leg instead of on the arm. So I got mine on the leg, and I suddenly made the connection. I thought, even in those days, they probably used heavy metals in the vaccinations. And this is the clean slate now pushing all that stuff out, which is why I don't know if I'm right in that assumption, but I'm assuming that to me, this is proof that all those heavy metals and all that rubbish that they put in vaccinations and everything that we put into our bodies, all of that is now coming out. Yeah, another thing I said to Sandy as well, I said, I feel like I've got my old personality back. It's like I used to have to really try to control my moods, and I had to really control my diet so carefully that I didn't eat the wrong thing because, and Clayton, I don't know if you remember, I asked this question before I started as well. Would it affect my copper levels? Because I suffer a lot with copper toxicity, copper overload. And I was really, really concerned that taking clean slate would release too much copper and put too much free copper into my system, and I would start getting all those copper effects again. But none of that's happened. So anyway, I'm sorry I've been talking so much.
Not dead yet.
2 minutes. No, I'm not. The thing that I was most concerned about was that my copper levels would be disturbed, but that hasn't happened. So I'm really, honestly, I'm so happy. I'm so happy with the progress I've made. All these different things, little niggly, my knee pain has gone. My back injury that I struggled with for 2 years has finally properly healed. Do you know, it's just a long list of lots of different things like this. So. But the eyesight improvement that I noticed today, that's been really major. And the biggest thing for me was focus and concentration at work, so that I can actually do my work during the day and finish in time, and I don't have to stay late to finish because it was so difficult for me to concentrate on what I was doing during the day.
So you're getting,
sorry.
getting the question of how long have you been doing this, and have you only been doing 4 drops twice a day?
I'm still only on 4 drops twice a day, and I'll tell you the reason for that in a minute. But I started on clean slate on the 5th of September. So it's about 2 months, but I had a week's break in between because I was on holiday and I ran out and I couldn't get the order in and so on. So probably all in all about 7 weeks, 6 or 7 weeks. Yeah, getting on for 7 weeks now.
So the 5th of November will be 2 months. So remember
Yeah.
the 5th of November.
From the 5th of September to the 5th of November, it will be.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, it's just, I honestly, I'm hoping, you know, like Mark with all his bottles and lotions and potions, I've got a whole box full of supplements and things I take. And I'm hoping eventually I'll be able to ditch at least half of those, if not more. You know, if this, especially with my liver thing, because a lot of my issues seem to be related to the liver. And I was so happy to hear what Tommy said earlier about, you know, about the improvement in his liver, because that's the one thing because that will help with my food sensitivities. Another thing that's gone, that's a really major issue for people with chronic fatigue syndrome, is multiple chemical sensitivity. It's called MCS. Dora, you probably heard of that. MCS, it's quite common, but I've noticed that I haven't had any MCS for probably a couple of weeks now.
So would you equate that not to multiple chemical sensitivities, but do you think you could equate it to just a toxic overload?
Yeah.
Your body can't handle anymore and you're in chaos.
Definitely. And you become because you've got so many toxins in you, you become hypersensitive to any toxin in the environment. So for example, I couldn't sit on a bus or a train near somebody who was wearing strong perfume. And now, just recently, when I've been on the tram, it just hasn't bothered me. And I've been known sometimes to get up and move to a different part of the train or the tram if somebody's got strong perfume on, because that chemical that chemical smell is just too overpowering, and it actually causes me to feel physically nauseous. But I'm fine with that now. You know, I haven't noticed any of that recently.
So I've got a couple things I wanted to ask you about. One, the hip aspect is,
Yes.
is your body pushing stuff out? Not it, and it's the fun part with clean slate, with how clean slate works as a mechanism, but also how it allows the body to start doing what it wants to do.
Yeah.
And I had some information or an experience with that with one of my closest friends. We've been friends since kindergarten and preschool. But he had contracted poison oak many years ago. And a few years ago, he was on a flight, and because of the air travel, which is a whole other conversation we'll get into at some point, because we're starting to do some really cool stuff with some from people that work in the airline issue that have been poisoned. But so he took about 30 drops before he got on the plane. And then when he landed, he noticed that he had a rash on his leg. And he called and is like, am I having an allergy to using this? I'm like, no, it doesn't cause allergies. What do you have? And he started to explain it, just like you were talking about. And then he realized that the exact same location and the exact same look was what he had when he contracted poison oak from going for a walk in the woods. And when he had gone to the doctor, he went to the emergency room to get treatment for him. And they told him there was nothing they could do. And he just needed to let it go away. Well, all of those biotoxins seeped into his skin where they were stored there. And as the body pushed it back out, he had the same response again as it cleared.
Yeah.
So it's quite interesting to see those function. The other thing is you love strawberries, right?
Yes.
The Environmental Working Group has them as part of their Dirty Dozen. They are one of the most toxic fruits because of even with organic fruits. And it's the hard part, right? Is we find some things that we really like, and they start adding to our body burden. But now, and it's like, for me, there are foods I love that I know are horrible for me. But it's like you talked about, if you know what your body's going to do with them, you can accept it. And you say, okay, if I do this, I'm going to get this outcome, but I can clean up some of the mess. And yeah, so congratulations on the short journey so far. Here's a question for you.
Thank you.
So it's you've had this list of experiences so far. How many bottles have you used?
I'm on my second one, and I'm not even halfway through the second one yet.
And Mark,
and I've got.
Was going, come on, man.
That's my list of all the things I wrote down. I was going to talk about all of them, but I don't think you guys want to stay here for another hour with me. Look, just one thing I wanted to say about the hip thing. Where that vaccination thing has come out, I've had some kind of problem with it's on my left hip, and I've had a problem with my left hip for probably 20 years, as long as I can remember. And I've been to biomechanics specialists, I've been to physiotherapy specialists, I've been to the doctor. They've given me special insoles to wear. They've told me my pelvis is crooked. They've told me my hip isn't straight. It's this, that, and the other. All those sort of things to try and control the hip pain. And they did work somewhat, but every now and then my hip would, and I tell you, the biggest problem I have with this hip is when I'm sleeping. If I sleep in just a slightly off position, then I'll have hip pain the next day. And now that all of this is coming out, I'm thinking, it's probably the toxins that went in at that site that have gathered in my hip and in the hip bones and in the hip joint and everything that's causing this discomfort and the pain. Because another thing that's happened is the soles of my feet were going very numb. And it got to the point where it felt like my skin was about that thick because I literally couldn't feel anything on the bottom of my feet. And now slowly that's all coming back. But as it's coming back, I can feel the nerves coming back alive and becoming more sensitive. So I'm thinking that's probably hopefully what's going to be happening with my hip.
It's called peripheral neuropathy from environmental toxins, which is the primary cause. But I think the easy way to say that is Sandy helped you eliminate a pain in your arse. I'm going to leave it at that because I have to. I've got to get on the other
You're late
webinar.
on the next call.
I'm sorry, I've kept
Usually we'll leave it at this. Usually Sandy is a pain in the arse.
Oh,
But now he's eliminating them. No,
no, he's
I love
not.
you guys. Thank you everyone
Sandy's
for
been a very
feedback.
good friend to me, always.
Yeah, no, and that's the fun part of the best way to help create friends is through sharing, right?
Yeah.
And sharing the love. And it's like Thomas has, the responsibility for taking care of Mark, and Sandy's got a whole list of trophies that he's racking up with names and contact numbers of saying, I got this one and this one and this one just from sharing. And that's the
Yeah,
beautiful.
but he's very good at that.
Yeah, and it comes with passion, right? Your experience and Mark's experience and Tommy's experience and Marsha's experience and Django's experience. I mean, how can you not share that? Because there's so many people. There's millions and millions of people that are going through the same thing you are. I mean, you go on Facebook, there's one group of 350,000 people that have psoriasis that are dealing with what Mark has endured.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are going, help me. The funny part is the platform that they're on doesn't want to help them. So yeah, it's just the beauty of sharing. So thank you for sharing this. Mark, thanks for sharing. Marsha, thanks for sharing.
thank you.
Tommy, he's probably back at work. And
Dory for putting it together.
Well, thank you.
peace. I'll see you guys here in a second.
Okay.
You never know.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Clayton.
thank you.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers, Dory.
Bye.
Good day, Dr. Dory.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.